Today we are going to go over how to better use and implement all three of Apex Legends grenades into your gameplay. Grenades are one of the biggest elements that can simply just change the flow of your battles. This remains true for those struggling in Bronze and Silver, all the way up to those in Masters and Predator. If you've watched a few of my videos in the past, you know I live and die on the hill of how important grenades are. It may seem like they take up too much space in your inventory where an extra healing item or ammo would be better, but generally, you need to always have at least one. Grenades are the definitive way to force players to move and or get big damage to better press in engagement. The big one though is going to be forcing movement. Positioning is so important in Apex, and more times than not, you're not going to always be in that perfect spot, and you'll need an avenue to take someone out. A grenade is how you do this. Without it, it makes things a lot more difficult and much more dependent on the legend or character you are playing, or just having aimbot. Even if you do have that great legend to force that enemy's movement, the damage potential is oftentimes much lower than a simple grenade. Otherwise, when you should be using a grenade really comes down to the enemy's position. If they are in a smaller room or alley, this will produce much better results because they do have less area to move and they will need to take the damage or get flushed out of that spot. It is in my opinion that the best raw damage grenade that is probably also the most slept on is going to be frag grenades. Frags also can be the most flexible grenade to use for many different types of fights. Frag grenades will deal anywhere from 1 to 100 damage for a full contact hit and has a maximum blast radius of about 9 meters. One of the biggest things going for frag grenades is that if an enemy takes any health damage, they will get pushed and displaced from their location. This can be a straight 50 flesh damage, or it could even be 99 shield damage and then 1 health damage. The amount of distance is based on the proximity to that damage or the explosion, so in general, getting hit for a full 100 is going to send someone a lot farther than getting tickled for a sub 10 hit. One of the more flashy moves many will want to learn is vert or sky nading. Since frag grenade's explosion timer starts as soon as you throw it, you do have the ability to throw that grenade straight up in the air and have it explode right in an enemy's face if you do have good timing and placement. This will depend on your distance to the enemy, but oftentimes if someone is directly above you, throwing that grenade vertically can cause massive damage if they do not see the grenade getting thrown, and it can even cause them to get pushed off of that high ground if they do take some health damage. The big way to practice this in the easy way is that you can do this in the firing range, practice the various distances, and get those trajectories down. Maybe not as useful, but you can also throw a grenade straight vertically if you are getting chased by an enemy. If timed properly, the chasing enemy could walk straight into the explosion, and this will help you get some relief to reset. The rolling technique is also incredible for almost the opposite reason of vert nades. If an enemy is hiding behind cover or slightly under your position, throwing a grenade on the ground and then having that grenade explode just as it rolls off of the edge of that high ground is a really nice way to get some big hits in. The benefit to this method is that enemies oftentimes will have no idea that that grenade is about to roll onto them until that last moment when the icon does show up. This is because the grenade indicator will not appear if the grenade is not in the line of sight or in the view of that enemy till it is already too late. In general, you can also do this method if an enemy is chasing you to try and prevent them from pushing into your area. If you are really pressed for a time, throwing a grenade and then popping a battery or healing item may give you just enough relief to get some extra health off and turn the tide of your battle. A slightly more tricky type of grenade play can be to intentionally throw a grenade off of a wall or a bank shot. Banking a grenade off a wall can better let you accurately place a grenade at someone's feet or behind an object that you cannot clearly see. This is also slightly less linear for an enemy to deal with, so it could be a little bit harder for someone to comprehend as well. A very underrated and semi-difficult frag technique is to roll frag grenades under doorways. It does not work on every door, but if a door has a small gap on the bottom corners, you can actually throw the frag grenade into a room and have the door blow up from the other side. This can be extremely devastating for enemies to deal with. It does let you push in right as that door does explode. Before we move on to thermite grenades, here are my general recommendations for how many grenades you should be carrying per backpack. Just know though that this is highly dependent on your playstyle, passive versus aggressive, and your legend that you are playing, as well as your backpack size. With no bag, it is definitely difficult, but still I think carrying one is a must. This follows true for the gray bag. If you are running something like a wingman or lesser ammo hungry gun, using 2 for a blue bag works, and then 3 for a purple or a gold. If you are running 2 spray weapons, I think 2 for the purple or gold bag, and then 1 for the blue is fine. Regardless of the bag, always carry and look out for one grenade after you do use it. A secret tip that many may not be aware of is that you can actually tell how many kinds of grenades you are holding by looking at the icon on the bottom of your screen. If there is one line on the outside of that grenade icon, you have an additional type of grenade. 2 lines on either side means you do have a grenade of each kind. This is going to be small and it's not always going to be useful, but it can give you a quick indication if you have another type of grenade in your inventory. Unfortunately, you cannot tell how many or what kind of grenade you are carrying. Probably one of the more forgotten grenades, or at least the most slept on, is going to be thermites. The general function of thermites is that they are a fire grenade that does 4 damage per tick if an enemy steps on that grenade for any sort of time. The minimum damage that the grenade is going to do is 24 damage, and then it's going to rapidly stack up if enemies are not getting out of that fire fast enough. Oftentimes, players are not going to respect how fast that damage actually does stack up, and it's pretty easy to miss the fact that you are standing in a thermite. Because of this, I do think that they can be pretty insane if you do have the ability to get really good placement on them. Since thermites do explode in the horizontal direction, this is vital to how you can use the grenade to your advantage. The most basic use of a thermite is to throw on the ground, trying to stop advancement of the enemies or anyone moving into your area. While I do think the burn damage of the grenade is not the greatest at times, I also think enemies are greatly threatened by a thermite, even to the point where that the enemy will over prioritize how bad a thermite can hurt you, when in reality, 24 damage is pretty small to push through. One of my favorite uses of thermites is to have the added benefit of tracking enemies that are actively getting burned by it. Since the damage ticks for 4 even after they do leave the grenade, this does give you some small sense of recon on that player, letting you more or less see them through walls or behind cover. It will also give you some intel as to their shield or health status. Since thermites do last on the ground for a few seconds, the audio is actually something worth noting. You can use the audio of a thermite to help mask your movement. This could be either pushing into an area or escaping out of an area, depending on your goal. Using one of these thermite grenades to help mask the audio of a revive or even a healing item is also a strategy that you should be aware of, as not only does the grenade stop enemies from pushing in, it's going to help conceal the audio of what you are doing. If there's only one way you have to use the thermite grenade though, it is to better force movement, similar to a frag grenade. The benefit of a thermite though is that you can better place it, since all you gotta do is throw that grenade next to an object rather than behind it like a frag grenade, which is a little bit more difficult. My last word of warning is that you can pretty easily jump over a thermite grenade. Any sort of small variation in height of the terrain will make this possible, so just be ready for it. Moving on to what was once the definitive best grenade in Apex Legends, but nowadays it's a little bit more tame compared to what it was. If you have been away from Apex for a little bit, arc stars do a straight 75 damage to enemies when they are in proximity of that explosion. This is for both shields and health damage now. If you stick an enemy, it's going to do an additional 10 damage upon stick, but now there is no slowdown effect when you are actually getting stuck. The slowdown does happen though when a grenade does explode, and this is where the power of arc stars really lie. Not only can you force movement with an arc star, you can also prevent movement when it explodes, making it much easier to get shots on there, and of course, catch enemies off guard if they are in the open. Additionally, they are going to get a slight screen disorientation upon detonation of that arc as well. Much like the previous, you can still use arc stars just like the other grenades by throwing them vertically to vertinate someone. A tactic that is always great is to use an arc star to explode doors before you breach in. Throwing an arc on the door seems like the logical way to go, but actually, the grenade really should go on the base of the door, on the floor. If a door breaks while that grenade is attached to it, the grenade is going to simply just disappear into oblivion. This means if an ability or if an enemy kicks that door down, the grenade is just gone. Be very aware of this, as not too many realize this is something that you can utilize to your advantage, and oftentimes you can't just kick a door if it has one kick left and the grenade is going to go away. It is not as crazy as it once was, but a priority when you are using arcs should be to try and open a fight with the stick. Not only does this send the entire squad scrambling, it's a great way to stun the enemy and get a quick knock on them to even the odds. In addition to the benefit of being stunned, arc stars kind of have the added benefit of being the ultimate precision grenade. They are not going to bounce or roll when you are placing them, which will let players be very accurate, and it does give them a little bit more capability to finesse players. It sounds silly, but doubling up on arc stars when assaulting a squad can be pretty solid. The first arc star is going to stun and damage them, and then you basically get a second free hit since they are already immobile. You can also specifically place arc stars on the opposite sides of objects, so enemies have nowhere to go and basically are going to take some damage no matter what. This could also even work with frag grenades. If you are still here, drop a comment down below, let me know what your favorite grenade type is, and also drop a smiley down there to let me know that you're a real one. Hit the like button, sub for more, and of course, I'll see you in the next one.